Welcome to the Women Lighthouse podcast, your friendly guide through all the ups and downs of life. We're here to remind you that every woman has the strength to take charge of her journey and make her dreams come true. Each week, we'll share heartwarming stories and helpful tips from amazing women who have faced their own challenges and come out stronger. Tune in, get inspired, and let's start this exciting journey towards achieving your dreams together. The Women Lighthouse, your guide to a brighter tomorrow. Hello, ladies. You're welcome to today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. It's great to have you tune in today. Today, we're going to be talking about overcoming mom guilt. I believe you have heard the word mom guilt before. In a layman's term, mother and guilt. In other words, the guilt that mothers experience as a result of not living up to certain expectations that they have for themselves with regards to different things. So to break it down by way of definition, mom guilt is a feeling of shame. When you talk about guilt, you're feeling ashamed about something. And in this case, the reason for feeling ashamed is because you are not living up to certain expectation or other people's expectations about yourself with regards to your role, either basically as a parent. That's why it's mom now, not women guilt, mom guilt. So it could be due to different reasons that we're going to explore today. So the main reason for today's episode is to throw more light into the concept of mom guilt and basically discuss some of the myths surrounding mom guilt, certain reasons why mothers experience mom guilt, and also how you can tackle mom guilt as a mother. So I'll begin by talking about the myths about mom guilt, and for every myth, I'll bust them with a fact. So the first myth basically is that all mothers experience mom guilt. They will tell you that at some point in time, every mother would experience mom guilt. So that's the first myth. And what I'll say is that yes, most mothers experience mom guilt, but not all mothers. And why I say this is because mom guilt depends on how you view yourself. First, self-awareness and certain expectations for yourself. So the way one mother can view a certain situation is not the same way another mom would view that certain situation. So most times, definitely, generally as humans, we tend to feel guilty about things. But when you've gained a level of self-awareness and self-maturity, especially if you gained that before you became a mom, chances that you may experience mom guilt would be minimal. So not all mothers experience mom guilt, but most mothers do. The second myth is that mom guilt is a sign of being a bad mother. Many times when you feel guilty about a certain thing, either in your parenting or anything that has to do with your motherhood, basically, there's that tendency to feel like you are a bad mom. But I'm here to tell you that the fact that you may experience mom guilt doesn't make you a bad mom. Rather, it shows how much you desire to be the best mother you can be and to care for your kids in the process. It just shows that you are human and that you're not a bad mom. The next myth is that mom guilt only arises as a result of work-life balance. Yes, work-life balance is a common cause why many women experience mom guilt, the ability or the inability to balance their responsibility as women, who, especially if you are working, whether within the home or outside the home, and balancing that as being a mom. So when you experience work-life balance, it's one of the commonest reasons for mom guilt, but that's not the only reason. So there are other reasons that women experience mom guilt, and they include parenting choices. There are different parenting choices you would have to explore during the course of your parenting. And most times you learn on the job. You have very few parents that have actually been trained or been intentional about acquiring knowledge with regards to parenting choices. So most times they get to learn on the job. Then when they encounter a challenge, they now go and do some research in that particular area and try to find the solution to it. So sometimes the kind of way in which you parent can bring about you experiencing mom guilt, especially when people tend to criticize the way you parent. They expect a certain kind of thing from you. Like for instance, I would give an example. I homeschool my kids. At the initial time, I actually experienced mom guilt because I had some form of criticism, not really like direct criticism, but people like trying to give their opinion. Are you still homeschooling your child? Why don't you just put your child in regular school? And just trying to give their own opinion. So many times I would feel guilty about those criticisms that were coming up. So that's like an example of parenting choices. Then also when it comes to self-care, sometimes you feel so guilty that you're taking care of every other person, taking care of your kids, but you're neglecting yourself. I know that I experienced that once I became a mom, like I wasn't taking care of myself. I've talked about that in one of the episodes I did on prioritizing self-care. And many times as women, we fall into that category because naturally women are nurturers, we are givers. We tend to take care of every other person other than ourselves. So most times when you are not paying attention to yourself, your appearance, physically, emotionally, spiritually, health wise, there's that tendency to begin to feel guilty. So this is also another thing that can cause, or another reason why women experience mom guilt. Also, emotional responses. If you are the type that you respond to situations in an extreme way, either extreme aspect. Okay, for instance, let me use anger as an example. There's so many times I've gotten angry at my kids, especially my son, because he's like getting me crazy. And I tend to flare up. And there's this emotional outburst. I take it out on him. I shout on him. Sometimes I discipline him with the cane out of anger. And when I finish, I feel like the worst mother ever. I am sure you can relate. I am 100% sure you can relate, especially as a traditional African parent. Hmm. Then you now hear people coming to tell you, oh, don't beat your child, don't do this, don't do that. You just feel so bad and you feel so guilty about your action. So that's another thing, emotional responses. Also, financial decisions. Maybe when you are in a particular season of your life where you would want to provide something for your child or your kids, but you do not have the financial capacity to provide that. You feel guilty. Or it could be the other side of the coin. You have what it takes to provide something for your child and you go all out, and at the end it's detrimental to your child, either because your child begins to have this entitled mentality. I know it happened to me. There was this time that every time I come back, coming back from work, I must buy things for the kids. Every time I must come back, so they were always expecting it. I had already nurtured them in that way. So anytime I'm going out, oh mommy, don't forget to buy something for me. Or when I come back or go to pick them up from the co-op where I keep them, they will now say, "Oh, mommy, what did you buy for me?" Until I had a conversation with someone, and okay, I think we're in a meeting or something, a retreat, and naturally now they would serve small chops and all that. So I just ate maybe like one and kept the remaining for the kids. So I was not joking that men who don't like to take things for the kids back home. But if it's a woman would sacrifice that thing and carry it to the kids. And we actually started having a conversation about it. And he was like, he actually takes things to the kids, but it's not every time. That's um sometimes he tries to make it like a surprise, and so that it's not something they always expect. And I thought about it and I was like, wow, that's actually true. My kids have become entitled to always believing that I have to bring something for them anytime, every day I come back from work and I go to pick them up, or anytime I go out. So at that period, I felt so guilty about my decision, and I had to like reevaluate it. So that's mom guilt. So mom guilt in itself is not like bad, bad, bad. It's like when you feel guilty about something, the fact that you are feeling guilty doesn't make you a bad person. That's the myth we just busted. So it just makes you human, and it draws your attention to something that you may really need to pay attention to. Another thing about mom guilt is that it occurs when there's like comparison with other parents. So the way you compare yourself, your parenting style with the parenting style of someone else, or you see what other parents are doing for their kids, you wish you could do the same, you begin to compare. So comparison also brings about mom guilt. Also, this one is so common, spending time away from your kids. Who can relate with that one? I know you can, especially as a working mom. I know there were so many times I felt like quitting my job. I was like, God, I wish I could always be with the kids, especially when they are still young. You're dropping them off in school and they are crying and they are crying, and the tears pierces your heart. That happened to me when I enrolled my son in a new school. Like for the whole term, for 3 months, he was always crying. And when I drop him, I would sit in the car and wait for like maybe 10, 15 minutes to try to put myself together because I was feeling his pain. And I had to like try to brace up and encourage myself, but I won't lie, it was tough. I think there was an app or something I had that period, and they were sharing some things about parenting and all. I had to go research and check for some videos that had to do with this issue of mom guilt because it was killing me. So this is a common thing mothers experience when you have to be away from your kids, either for a prolonged period of time or for a short period of time, as short as an hour, and your kids are crying. So it's so common when you have to do, but we'll talk about how to handle such. Then also feeding choices. I've mentioned um okay. I think there was this time, like for instance, let me give an instance. You have sometimes you have a picky eater, a child who is picky, and you're trying to get the child to eat, and a child is like rejecting it. My son was like that, very picky eater. And I'm a doctor, and we always say don't force feed. Well, my sisters, I had to. So you know how you're force feeding and you're getting frustrated. You're forcing, I get you frustrated. Sometimes you even beat the child or you spank. Not like spank. What is it called? It's like you flick the child. You use your thumb and your fingers to just smack the child a little on the chin or on the mouth to open up and cry so that you could force feed. And at the end, I'll be feeling so bad. So that's another example of mom guilt. Then also responsibilities. When you have household responsibilities, and it's so overwhelming for you. Maybe you don't have someone helping you out. It's frustrating. You feel so guilty, especially if you're a working mom, for instance. You have to work outside the home. When you come back, everywhere is messed up. You're tired, you're frustrated, and you're like, everywhere is messed up. You feel so bad and guilty that you are not meeting up with your expectations within the home. So these are just like other things other than work-life balance that can cause and give rise to mom guilt. So let's continue with the myths. Another myth about mom guilt is overcoming mom guilt means you are ignoring your feelings. I've just said it now. I've busted that myth just now, saying that rather than you feeling like you're a bad person because you're feeling guilty, mom guilt helps to create awareness about areas you need to work on. So it's not making you ignore your feelings, rather, it's providing awareness. Remember, I talked about self awareness. It's providing awareness to help you acknowledge and process what you are really feeling and what you can do about it. So, mom guilt doesn't make you feel like, oh, because I have mom guilt, it means I'm ignoring how I feel. Rather, it provides awareness about it. Also, moms should always put their children first. I know this one, right? Where, in fact, I was listening to a video recently about understanding your core as a woman by Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika. And you should check out that video on YouTube. She was saying that many times women give themselves all out and neglect themselves, take care of the kids, take care of the husband. Then when the kids grow up, will now say, oh, I spent all my time taking care of you. And the child will ask, who sent you? When I heard that, I said, many moms are guilty of this, where you focus, you put your life on hold. You put your kids first. You say, oh, I'm dedicating this period, maybe the first 10 years of my life to care for my kids. There's nothing wrong with that. But as you're caring for that child, be caring for yourself. Don't pause your life for 5 years, 10 years, and you're not investing in yourself. You can slow down on certain things. You can slow down on the kind of jobs you take on. You can slow down on the kind of engagements you involve yourself in, just to provide you more time with the kids. Not that you put your life on a complete pause and invest it totally. And after 10 years, the only thing you have to show for it is you were a mom, but you didn't develop yourself enough. You know, that's one thing that happens when, for instance, you decide to be a stay-at-home mom. And during that period of being a stay-at-home mom, you didn't invest in yourself. Then when you're ready to return back to the workforce and you put out your CV, there is a gap. And you're wondering, how can I fill up this gap? So that's the beauty, even if it means taking courses, networking on a light note, doing some small projects that will still give you time to be with your kids. It's better than putting your life completely on hold. So as you take care of your kids, remember it is important to take care of yourself. Very important. And the last myth about mom guilt is that mom guilt will go away once you make the right choices. Drum rolls. Not at all. At every season of your life, you would experience mom guilt. If you conquer one today, tomorrow, another situation is waiting for you that will bring about mom guilt. So the feeling may persist because parenting is full of so many uncertainties and challenges. You will always face challenges. If you overcome mom guilt with dealing with your toddler kids, they will grow older and you experience new challenges that you need to tackle. They will become adults and you experience new challenges too that you will need to tackle. So you would always experience mom guilt at different stages of your life. So because you made the right choice today doesn't mean tomorrow you will not experience mom guilt. And that's the reason for this episode, so that you will know that when I experience mom guilt, what should I do? So I've shared basically why women experience mom guilt based on the myths. And now we want to go into how you can deal with mom guilt, which is the crux of the matter. And it begins with beginning with yourself. I talked about self-awareness. You need to understand who you are, understand your identity, understand your uniqueness, understand and be comfortable with who you are. Why is this important? It will help you practice self-compassion and avoid comparison. Remember, I said one of the things that could cause mom guilt is when you have to start comparing what you do with what others do and all that. But when you understand yourself, you would give yourself some grace. When you understand your uniqueness, that your strength is different from another person's strength, and your weaknesses is different from the other person's weaknesses, you won't be so hard on yourself. You will practice self-compassion, and you would also avoid comparison, because you know you are different, you are unique, and you will do what suits you and what suits your family structure. The next thing is communicate. When you feel guilty, you don't have to do life alone. It's okay to express how you feel, either to your spouse, either to a close friend, and even to a professional if need be. Like there was this time when in a season of my life, I was dealing with emotional outbursts, anger. It was a big deal. I had to confide in my husband, and I had to tell him the struggles I was going through in that season of my life. How I felt so bad, how I felt so inadequate, how I felt that I had a problem, there was something wrong with me, how I felt that I needed help. So you don't have to do life alone. Learn to communicate and ask for help. Help from the Holy Spirit, help from a trusted friend or family member, help from a professional. Another way you can deal with mom guilt is to identify your support network. That's the beauty of the Women Lighthouse. We provide support for women community. Where you are, learn to identify your support network, where you can learn from the experiences of women or of people that have gone ahead of you or are either going through what you are going through. And you can hold your hands together, share experiences, gain insight, and apply wisdom together. Also, let go of unrealistic expectations. Life is not that deep. Life is not a big deal like that, like you're thinking. So take it softly, take it easy. Don't set expectations that you cannot meet. We talked about financial decisions, for instance, as one of the reasons for mom guilt. When you know what your financial capacity is, you budget based on what you can afford. Let me give an instance now. There's this new park that came, that is like a water park where I stay in Nigeria, that just came up. So every time I go to work, and when I go to work, I go with my kids, drop them off first before I go to work. We pass that water park almost on a daily basis. And my son will always see that water park. I'm like, oh, mommy, I want to go to the water park. Let's go. And when the water park was launched, it was so expensive. This was like last year. It was so expensive. I just told him, don't worry, we'll go. But why would I bother myself feeling guilty about not being able to take my child to that water park? Why? When I know I cannot afford it. So this year, there are plans on the way, like for us to go there. But we're saving for it. So anytime he asks me if we're going there, I'm like, oh yes, we're actually going there, but we have to save for it. And he'll say, Mommy, I have money. I told him, okay, how much do you have? He will tell me how much. And I'll say, that money is not enough. So we have to save. Oh, don't worry, we're planning. We will go. So don't set unrealistic expectations for yourself and not start up feeling guilty about that unrealistic expectation. You are just wasting your energy, wasting your time, wasting your emotions, and it's not worth it. Also, it's important to remember who you are beyond motherhood. You were first created as a woman before you became a wife and before you became a mom. So you cannot begin to focus more on the last one, which is motherhood, and neglect the womanhood. So remember, you are first a woman, and invest in yourself as a woman. When you invest in yourself as a woman, there's this self-confidence that comes with it, that you can handle it no matter what it is. Then when you are now confident and reliant in who you are as a woman, it's easy for you to give and pour out into being a good mother. So never forget or neglect yourself as a woman. Prioritize your self-care. Invest in yourself. Ensure you do that. Also schedule time for relaxation. Sometimes we become so overwhelmed with responsibilities, so overwhelmed. And that brings about mom guilt because we're so overwhelmed. So just schedule time. Sometimes just breathe, just relax, just be you. Don't overthink things. When you can do the little you can do, you do it. For instance, things around the house, helping out with the kids, someone to help out with the kids, do the little you can. And the ones you cannot do, just leave it and come back to it later. Or you get added help, because many people, one of the things that drives them crazy is their inability to care for the kids alone. So they need help. Then when they get the help is also frustrating them. Like I'm at that season of my life where I just said I'm taking a break from getting any in-house um nanny or anything. Like I just need some space to breathe. So you need to do that every now and then. Just schedule time to relax and just breathe. Just take every day as it comes, one day at a time, and trust God to help you through the process. And above all, focus on quality parenting over quantity. It's not about how much you do, but how well you do it. For instance, if you're a working mom, you can't help it. If you could, you would have stayed back with the kids, maybe got a remote. Even when you get a remote job, you will not always be there for your kids. That's just the truth. So people that do remote jobs still have to enroll their kids in school. And one thing you need to know is you mustn't be 100% present with your kids. You mustn't be the one doing everything. For instance, you need to leverage on support from family, support from friends, support from professional caregivers. The only thing is you must be present, which is where quality comes in. So it is not about how many times you are present with your kids, but when you are present, what are you doing? Sometimes you spend 20 hours with your kids, but you are not present. So I remember listening to Pastor Mildred one day, and I think she said she spoke with a renowned pastor. And then that was the period when she and her husband began to travel globally, like do a lot of travel, speaking engagements, and all that. And her kids were still very young. And she started feeling guilty about leaving her kids behind and not being there with the kids. How would she create the balance? So she asked the question that what should she do? And the answer she got was quality over quantity. And the advice was whenever you are present, make unforgettable memories with your kids whenever you are present. So don't focus on how many times you are not there. Focus on this time you are here. What can you do that would be so unforgettable and memorable that even in your absence, your kids will still feel how loved they are by you. So that's what I'm saying to you today as a mom or an aspiring mother, because at some point in time, you're going to be a mom. Ensure that you prioritize quality over quantity. Focus on what you can do. I know there was that season when I would tell myself, I wish I could quit my job, just be there with the kids. I wish. I'm still working. But I figured out how to make it work. So even when I drop my kids, for instance, at co-op, thank God now they are not crying. But that initial time, there was this crying and crying. And I'll just talk to them. Don't worry. Before you know it, mommy is done from work. She'll come and pick you up. We'll spend time together. We'll have fun. You just have to find a way around it. Don't let mom guilt hold you back from living out your full potential as a woman and then as a mom. So if you can practice these few things I've shared, it will go a long way to helping you in dealing with mom guilt. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Your feedback means a lot to me. So please comment, share your thoughts. What experiences have you had with regards to dealing with mom guilt? We would love to hear how you were able to navigate through it. Or if you still have struggles that you are facing, please share it with us and we would address it within the community. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. See you on our next episode. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. We really hope today's episode has given you some great tools, resources, and a boost of confidence to take charge of your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. You can also follow us on our social media handle for even more tips and a wonderful community that's all about supporting your growth. Join us next time for more uplifting stories and encouraging insights. Until we meet again, keep shining bright, stay inspired, and embrace your unique path to a better tomorrow.